What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Translating Human Performance Podcast, or THP Strength. We're still finalizing exactly what the name is going to be. If you guys have a preference on that, go ahead and comment or put it in the questions from your listeners, and we will consider that. So today we have Hunter on the podcast, and we are going to be talking about nutrition. So for those of you guys that don't know, Hunter loves nutrition probably more than anyone I've ever met, which says a lot, because I have met a lot of people in human performance. I've met a lot of people that do, nutrition at a high level in performance. So whether that was at Exos, or Altus, which was at Exos, which is where you saw UFC fighters, you saw world-class track and field athletes, you saw NFL quarterbacks, people for the combine prep training, and they have in-house nutrition there. People that are RDs, I think it's RDs, right? Or the actual registered dietitian. Is that correct, Hunter?
It is.
Yes. People that are interning for that there. So I got to correspond with them. When I was at Duke, we obviously had, a whole, this is kind of common in a lot of universities, but they basically have a food, I don't even know what I would call it, like a mini cart, I guess. And you can get, protein bars there, you can get shakes or things like that. So I've heard John Berardi speak from Precision Nutrition. A couple friends go through nutrition degrees, and I've just been around it for a while. So I kind of have a pretty good bullshit filter, as you say, or as I say, or as we say. And Hunter definitely knows a lot about nutrition, almost enough about the little details that actually matter a lot, to the point that I would honestly be like, this guy has a nutrition degree. So I trust him a lot with the information that he has, and I'm going to pick his brain. You guys have sent in some questions. If you're listening live, feel free to ask as well. But without further ado, I'm going to start grilling Hunter. So first off, Hunter, where do you get most of the information that you have about nutrition?
So, that's a good question. So for when I first started, it was just honestly reading textbooks and devouring podcasts. And that was until I felt like I had a decent enough understanding to start filtering through mainly studies myself. And, I'm nowhere near, proficient enough to do it all day, every day, and really get a good understanding of everything that's going on in the nutritional world. But just for fun, I'll listen to podcasts all about nutrition and how it relates to performance. I'll read new studies as they come out, and then I subscribe to a bunch of different newsletters and reports on new evidence in the space and how to optimize human performance through nutritional interventions.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so here's the first question we got that was coming in here. It says, collagen, do you believe Keith Barr or Jill Cook? And I don't know if you're familiar with what Jill Cook says, but basically she says collagen really doesn't do anything, or not that it doesn't do anything, but she doesn't believe that it's a supplement really worth taking, or that supplements in general really have much of an impact on tendons, whereas Keith Barr has shown radiolabeled collagen, I believe, in the tendon that people have consumed. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you have an opinion on it? Are you acquainted with it? I know what I think, but I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, so my opinion from what I've seen in the literature and what I've heard people who study this for a living say is that there is a small amount of evidence, or there's evidence, but the impact might be a little bit smaller than what's advertised, but that collagen supplementation might have a slight benefit, not only for tendon and ligament health, but also for hair, skin, and nails. It's not going to be drastic, so you're not going to start taking collagen and look like you looked at 12. But I honestly go back to kind of thinking about how humans evolved and what we ate. There's a huge movement right now going nose to tail, where you're not just eating the muscle meat of an animal, but that you will also consume the organ meat, and then you're going to make collagen and bone broth and all that stuff out of the extra material that you're left with. And so my advice is typically it won't hurt, and if you can afford it, take some collagen. Make sure you consume it with vitamin C. But here again is where I think people get mixed up. It's when I say take vitamin C with your collagen, it's 60 milligrams, and that's all the vitamin C is needed for your body to actually utilize that collagen. So it kind of leads me to my next pet peeve, which is antioxidant supplementation. So for athletes, especially if you're young and healthy, you don't really need antioxidant supplementation. And in fact, there's a ton of evidence that it's actually going to blunt the effects of exercise if you're young and healthy. So take a little bit of vitamin C. That's all you need. So for me, before a workout, I'll have a cup of strawberries. I think that's right at 60 milligrams of vitamin C with some oatmeal, some whey protein, some collagen protein. That helps great. I believe it does. Maybe not to a huge extent, but I believe it will help over time if you're consistent with it. Um, you know, be smart with it. Don't expect crazy results.
Yeah, so I've taken it on and off for 3-ish years. Actually, I started taking it whenever since 2016, I started taking it. I tried kind of everything under the sun, as they say. I did fish oil, I did collagen, I did MSM, I think is what it's called, chondroitin, and I think there was one more that I tried. And I never really noticed a major difference with it because I didn't have the right program in place. So I think this really is probably what Joel Cook says, which is like, hey, look, it doesn't matter if you're taking collagen, fish oil, chondroitin, MSM, like all these different things, if you don't do the big things well, like Hunter says, the big rocks. I love that. And he's right. If you don't make sure that you're monitoring your training load, if you don't make sure that you're paying attention to your isometrics every 6 hours, or if you don't make sure that you are doing slow strength or not pushing through pain, then all the collagen in the world is not going to really alleviate the issue, because pathologically we know that the issue starts in the nerve, or not in the nerve. There's like more ground substance, there's more hypercellularity, and you see nerve fibers kind of start to proliferate and form nociceptive nerve fibers, and so you're feeling pain. So it's like, yeah, collagen can help, like Hunter said. Is there enough evidence for me to warrant trying it? Yeah, because it's not going to hurt you. I think it has a pretty good amino acid profile to the point that's like, okay, maybe you get in more amino acids, but even that isn't great in literature. I think, Hunter, you could maybe attest to that. What are your thoughts on amino acids? Do you think maybe there's an added benefit of like, hey, you get these additional amino acids, or no?
So
I see your face. Are you smirking?
Yeah. So this is another thing where I see everyone taking branched chain amino acids, and what people don't realize is the amino acid in those branched chain amino acids that actually counts as leucine, but leucine actually competes with isoleucine for absorption. So really what you want is leucine if you're trying to maximize muscle protein synthesis, but taking it with the other amino acids that make up the BCAAs is actually counterproductive. But to a larger extent, you want to make sure that you're eating a diet that has a complete amino acid profile, day to day. And this, it kind of touches back to your big rock theory, which is that if you're taking care of the big rocks, the likelihood that you're going to be deficient in amino acids probably isn't that high. So, if you're sleeping 5 hours a night and you're like, man, my joints hurt, I should take collagen. No, you shouldn't. You should be sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. You should be training properly. You should make sure your diet is on point. You should.
How much do you hate it that Isaiah and Connor and Austin don't sleep well?
It hurts every fiber of my being, because everyone wants a pill. Everyone wants the silver bullet. But what people don't realize is sleep is the magic. Sleep is magical. Like if you just get enough sleep, you will feel exponentially better. There's no pill that you can take that can counteract the effects of days, weeks, months of poor sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We have a bunch of questions here, so they're actually rolling in on my story.
Oh boy!
So I'll try to hit them.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes here, so let's just.
All right, we'll hammer away at them. So first off, does Red Bull give me wings? Yes, caffeine is very effective. Hunter, do you agree?
Yes, if you take a large amount of caffeine, you will feel it, and
you will jump higher.
You will do things that you couldn't do before.
Yes, Hunter knows all too well the effects of caffeine. He drinks way too much of it.
Yep.
Second question, do I need to reduce my carbs to jump higher? I know my opinion on this, but I want to hear yours.
If you are young and healthy, you should not be afraid of carbohydrates, especially if you're an explosive athlete. You need carbohydrates. So if you are a basketball player and you are trying to jump higher and you are doing 2-a-days where you are playing basketball and then exercising, I promise you'll perform better with enough carbohydrates. Do not be scared of carbs.
Yeah. The only downside is if you're eating too many calories because you're eating high calorie dense foods that don't necessarily make you feel full in terms of satiety. So for example, if you're taking in a bunch of shitty potato chips and you're eating a ton of those and you're not feeling full whatsoever, because like proteins and fats give you a sense of satiety, you should probably cut that out if you're eating those in excess.
Yeah.
And even then, in my opinion, it depends on the person, but I think like there's different ratios and percentages that you can take in, and people will go as far as say that 60% of your diet should be carbohydrates. So yeah, you definitely need them.
Yeah. I mean,
Hunter, I don't know if you have the speed power recommendation off the top of your head, but
I just, I really think that most basketball players don't have the problem of being overweight. They have the problem of being underweight, because basketball players are notorious for having, one, bad diets, but two, just actually not enjoying eating, which I personally do not understand. I love food. But for all those young basketball players that are listening, if you're afraid of carbs, please stop. Like, you need carbs. I've had my siblings reach out to me about this too. I make sure that they're fueled. You want, before an activity, some fast acting carbs that can get into your bloodstream, offer a supply of energy. And if you're going to do 2-a-days, make sure after your first workout that you are downing some carbs so that you can refuel the glycogen stores so that you can handle the training load later on in the day.
Yeah. So we have, like I said, a bunch more questions. So I'm going to move through them.
Oh boy, sorry.
This one says, from my friend Matty Jumps, can you lose 10 pounds in a week? I'll answer this one. You should not lose 10 pounds in a week.
Don't lose 10 pounds in a week. It's not healthy.
Not in any way, not healthy.
Have you seen those UFC fighters step on the scale? They look like they're about to faint. And sometimes they do.
And then sometimes they might. I tried that once for a weightlifting meet and I did pass out actually. I don't know if you knew that, Hunter.
Not recommended.
Yeah. Not recommended.
10 out of 10, not recommended.
This one says, what is worse, sugar or fat? I know my answer, but Hunter, I want to hear yours.
Sugar or fat? Okay, so that's a very broad statement, and it is completely dependent upon your situation.
Pretty polarizing.
Yeah. So
it's situationally dependent.
Yeah, you need enough fat in your diet to maintain healthy hormone levels. You got to realize that the substrate that makes the hormones is made of fatty acids, so you can't just completely remove fat from your diet. Good luck with that. And then we just spoke on carbs, so I don't think either one is one worse than the other. It's all contextual. So I'd have to know a little bit more about where you're coming from, what your current diet is, what is your physical demands, like yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's not one blanket statement.
Shout out my hormone profile. I have high cholesterol.
What up?
So I need less fats. LDL was high. HDL was low.
Not good.
Was not good. Not good. Not good. I think it's because, honestly, actually, side tangential, my calcium was also really high, and I'm for years been notorious about drinking a ton of milk, like whole milk, and I'm like, that kind of makes sense why I would have bad cholesterol and all these other bad markers for it, along with super high calcium, because I drink a ton of milk.
Yeah.
And when I say a ton of milk, I'm talking like 2.5 gallons a week, which is, Hunter's face. Yeah, I know, a lot. So I tried to cut it back, and I've switched to like 2%. So now I'm at like a gallon every week, which is, I feel like, pretty normal.
It's more normal.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if
John,
it's
you
the same
drink so much
person.
milk, it gross me out.
Jeez. Can you lose 10 pounds in a week while remaining healthy?
Oh,
No.
this is Maddie. This is definitely Maddie. Shout out Maddie.
No.
Yes, no, you should not lose 10 pounds in a week. That's definitely not healthy. Let's see if we can get some other good questions here. How to create a healthy diet for improving in the gym and jumping higher. I think this is like totally contextual, but one thing that I always recommend is like having as much lean muscle mass, functional lean muscle mass as possible, and having as little fat mass as possible. So if that's kind of your goal and what you're trying to do, along with trying to fuel yourself, I think that's where you kind of get in this a delicate balance, or this interplay of like, how many calories do I take in versus, at this time of year versus this time of year, and what are those calories made of? So in my opinion, I think when it comes to weight loss, weight gain, calories are probably the most important thing. But Hunter, I want to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah. So
how would you deal with that issue?
So if someone came to me and just asked, how do I eat to train more efficiently? Or what do I need to eat to train more efficiently? I would say, let's take a step back and let's look at what you have been eating for the last few weeks, months, years. How do you feel? And let's start tracking things. Let's get a sense of where you're at. And then from there, my first move is always to start to incorporate more and more micronutrient rich foods, because exercising is very demanding on the body. Not just, because you're pounding your joints and your muscles, but you need to recover from that, and recovering from that requires nutrients. And if you are just eating empty calories, so to speak, you might be able to remain weight stable, not lose weight, maybe gain a little bit of weight. But if you're not eating nutrient rich foods, you are starving your body of all of the micronutrients that it needs for enzymatic processes that occur for recovery and repair and rebuilding of the tissue that you just broke down during training. So, um, my first step when anyone ever asked me, how do I eat? I would just say, take a look at all the processed food you're eating and try to replace that with whole foods that are,
Mhm.
micronutrient rich, and that will leave you satiated.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely found that to be the case too. Whenever I've started taking in or actually whenever I was in grad school, I played around with a high flux diet. I don't know. Have you ever heard of high flux diet, Hunter?
No, I haven't. What's this? Indulge
So high
me.
flux basically means you eat a lot, exercise a lot, and that's essentially what I did. So I would train, 3+ hours a day, and then I was also eating a lot of calories as well, which can be bad if you're talking about load management. But in my case, at the time, I didn't even know that existed, and I was mostly healthy. So I was trying to take in as many vegetables as I possibly could, like get as much variety as I could, taking in vegetables. And I used to try to eat someone told me imagine your head was a bowl and if you were to fill it up with vegetables, that should be your goal for the day. And I was like, that's insane, but I'm gonna try. So I would eat a bag of frozen vegetables a day, which to my knowledge actually isn't terrible, because the frozen vegetables, I don't know if this is true or not, Hunter, I want to hear your opinion of this, they can actually hold some of the nutrient inside of it, but that could be totally false.
No,
Is that true
that's
or
very
false?
true. So yeah,
Very true.
actually,
Ooh, let's
fruits
go,
and
baby.
vegetables, yeah, fruits and vegetables that are frozen typically tend to be more nutrient rich than those that are quote unquote fresh at the grocery store, because those foods that are at the grocery store and out were probably picked well before that they were ready to be eaten. They've been shipped for days, if not weeks. Those actually aren't that fresh, whereas frozen fruit and vegetables are flash frozen the second they're picked, and so they maintain the nutrient profile of a ripe, ready to be picked either fruit or vegetable. So I actually try to get the majority of my fruits and vegetables through frozen variety. So um,
Yeah, nice. So what do you just do, bird's eye, mixed bags of vegetables of
yeah.
peas and carrots? Is that or
So I've actually learned that cauliflower rice tastes, in my opinion, actually better than regular rice. And
it's
so that
actually very good.
yeah,
It's
it's
very good.
very
But does
good.
cauliflower have a lot of
It
micronutrients? I thought the
does. It has a
best
ton of
vegetable for
vitamin A.
micronutrients was spinach and kale. Spinach, actually, specifically.
Spinach is pretty good. Kale's pretty good. But I think in general, what you got to realize is that um,
They all have different amounts of different
yeah,
things.
exactly. So you want to start mixing and matching because they all have different micronutrient profiles. So to the extent that you can add variety to the diet, you just offer a little bit more of a buffer against any micronutrient deficiencies through wholly consuming one type of food or another.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a good question, by the way. I gained weight faster than I wanted. Should I cut back down or maintain at my current weight and try to improve body composition? So I think what they meant is, hey, should I cut calories down and try to lose weight and train normal, or should I keep my caloric intake the same and increase my training load and hope that my body composition improves that way?
So
So do
I
you
yeah.
improve body comp by decreasing calories or improve body comp by training harder?
So I actually I love this question. So body recomp is possible even for intermediate to low level advanced athletes. And so if you are relatively new to the gym, you could 100% maintain the calories where you are, work out and experience body recomposition. And I would especially rather you do that if you are in season, because if you're in season and you're losing weight, that means you're in a caloric deficit. And so that is kind of where you're going to run into issues with recovery. And the last thing you want is, I mean, you're in the season, like you trained all off season for that one event. The last thing you need is to start experiencing the negative side effects of dieting. So if you are right at your season or in season, don't lose weight. In fact, that was a huge thing. I'm a New Orleans Pelicans fan. That was a huge point of contention with Zion, where he came in and may have been a little bit overweight, but everyone who really knew what was going on was saying, no, 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 he can't cut 20 pounds in the middle of the season. Like that's going to be horrible because after you diet for long enough, your hormones start to um, go sideways. You don't want that. Your energy starts to go down. Your sleep suffers, and there's a bunch of other side effects that come along with prolonged dieting. So if you're in the off season, green light, you can reduce the body fat and start over again if you want. Um, But if you can experience body recomp, if you're relatively new to the gym, I would much rather you try to chase that goal.
Yeah. What's kind of interesting too is like, if you look at some of the, I think not super contemporary research, but I want to say like 2010 on, it'll say like the amount of your body comp that changes like during times of years and things like that will actually be more in season, which is kind of interesting because like you just said, that's the time where you don't want to be seeing big changes in body composition so that you can obviously fuel your body for performance. But I think a lot of the time that the intensity increases so much to the point that you actually see decrements in performance because of fatigue, increases in workload so high that you can't even get the calories in to be able to sustain that level just because you're not used to eating that much. And it's like different for every type of athlete, but I think this was specifically in track and field. That was something that they had kind of observed, but that was the recommendation at the time, was like, hey, if you're trying to lose weight, like don't do this in season. This is something you should be doing in the off season to prep you, for the season.
Yeah, just think about how many more variables you can really
interesting.
maneuver or mess around with in the off season. Like you have a lot more flexibility in what you can shift around when your training starts to suffer, when your energy starts to go down, when your sleep starts to suffer. But if you're in the middle of a season and you're left feeling like that, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to have a diet rebound in the middle of the season. Next thing you know, you actually gained weight, and it's not muscle mass that you just gained. It's fat, and you still feel like crap.
Yeah.
I mean, just try. If you can avoid it, please avoid it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, actually, we're way beyond the time that we actually set out to have. I'll answer these last two questions. Your opinion on protein intake, 2 grams per kilogram. That is the recommendation. That is like for maxing out nitrogen. I believe it's nitrogen balance. Is that right, Hunter?
Yeah. So there's a few different things that we go into with that, but
make it clear and concise.
Okay. So the goal with protein intake is to obviously offer the amino acids that are required for rebuilding the muscle tissue that you've broken down, amongst tons of other things that your body does with the amino acids. So my preference would be that not only you get my general rule of thumb and goal is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And then I try to spread that out as evenly as possible.
It's about 2 grams per kilogram.
Yeah. I mean, it works out to be roughly the same. So I just try not to get like all my protein in one meal, because there's a threshold that you hit where you're not going to further boost muscle protein synthesis. And so you kind of want to hit that threshold as many times as possible throughout the day if your goal is to gain muscle mass. So that's how I do it.
I like that.
That's how I try to recommend it to all the athletes.
Yeah, there's tons of questions here, actually. We won't have time to get through all these. But Hunter, I'm going to screenshot a bunch of these.
Okay.
And we can do a part 2 maybe tomorrow or something like that. I think it'll be good. But I'm going to close it out here. Thanks, guys, for listening. Make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, do all those good things. And then if you're looking for training, obviously go to thbstrength.com. That is where you can sign up for training. That's where we will be notified and then be able to write up your programming. So that's all I have. Hunter, thanks for joining us. And yeah, we'll do this again soon.